I think there is no doubt that extraterrestrials visited Sardinia in ancient times.
It's still one of the most wondrous mysteries that we have about our origins, where we came from.
Throughout history, tales of towering giants have captured the human imagination. These mighty beings, sometimes called ogres, were said to shake the very earth when they walked. Many dismiss stories of giants as mere fairy tales, but others believe that physical evidence proves the existence of these colossal creatures. Join us as we show you the 20 most mysterious discovery of giants. Number 20. Giant of Catalina Island. In the late 1800s, the skeletal remains of a mysterious figure were uncovered in a shallow grave near the entrance of a cave on Catalina Island, California. The skeleton measured approximately 274 centimeters in height, sparking much speculation about its origins due to its unusual size. Theories emerged that the skeleton could belong to a member of a giant humanoid race that once inhabited the area. Others conjectured it may be the remains of an ancient Native American, possibly an unusually tall tribal member or leader. Some even suggested it could be a lost explorer who met their fate on the island centuries prior. Despite the speculative theories, no definitive identification or confirmation of the skeleton's background was made. In 1919, amateur archaeologist Ralph Glidden became involved with the peculiar skeleton. Glidden, who proclaimed himself an archaeologist though lacking formal credentials, asserted that the skeleton was evidence of an ancient race of giants. He deemed the skeleton to be that of a giant based upon its towering height approaching 274 centimeters, significantly larger than the average human. Glidden arranged for the apparent giant skeleton to be transported off Catalina Island, along with numerous other archaeological discoveries he claimed to have made in the area. The veracity of many of these findings was later disputed, and Glidden was accused of exaggerating evidence to support his theories. Number 19. Ancient Roman Giant. Can you imagine looking up at someone over 183 centimeters tall in ancient Rome? For Romans of the 3rd century AD, with men averaging around 167 centimeters, that would have been a shockingly lofty height. In 1991, archaeologists excavated a skeleton in Fidenae near Rome that stood at an awe-inspiring 203 centimeters. Now that might not seem record-breaking today, but surrounded by Tiananmen Square Munchkin-sized Romans, this ancient dude would have towered over the crowds like a titan. Experts estimate this towering figure likely passed away between 16 and 20 years old based on the bones. One theory is that he suffered from gigantism caused by a tumor on his pituitary gland, which can spark runaway growth. Imagine hitting 203 centimeters as a teenager. You'd be scrambling for custom togas. Of course, gigantism tends to lead to an early demise once the condition becomes severe. But we can't say for sure that was the cause of this ancient Roman's elevating affliction. Perhaps he was just part of a rare breed of lanky legionnaires. Skeletons like this remind us that while we love to imagine figures like Caesar or Nero when picturing ancient Rome, the reality was masses of not-so-tall common citizens. You never know when an excavation will unearth an oddball giant, shaking up perceptions of height in history. This anomalous skeleton sure stands out from the ancient Roman crowd. But was he just an extraordinarily tall mortal dealing with gigantism, or something more? Could he have been blessed by the gods, or born of mythic origins? We'll leave that for you to ponder. Number 18. Giant Skeleton of Castelnau. Picture this. You're an anthropologist excavating a Bronze Age cemetery in Castelnau, France. Suddenly, you unearth a massive thigh bone jutting from the soil. This thing is monstrous. You soon realize it's part of a skeleton over 335 centimeters tall. We know it sounds like a scene from an Indiana Jones movie, but according to accounts, this astounding discovery really happened to French anthropologist Georges Vacher de Lapouge in 1890. While digging around Castelnau, de Lapouge reportedly uncovered 3 supersized bones, including a femur over twice the normal length. If these bones were proportionate to the rest of a person's body, the individual could have stood as tall as an NBA center with a bronze sword. Of course, some skeptics have questioned whether de la Puig's findings were valid, or just tall tales. But it's fascinating to imagine a time when 365 centimeters tall people walked the earth alongside normal humans. What allowed these Bronze Age behemoths to stand so stupendously tall? Perhaps they descended from a lineage of giants. Maybe they suffered from gigantism or acromegaly, disorders caused by abnormalities of the pituitary gland. Or possibly they were just genetic anomalies who towered for unknown reasons. All we have today are those 3 colossal bones unearthed by de la Puig to offer clues about these larger-than-life ancients. So keep your eyes peeled, because you never know what relics of forgotten realms might turn up, even in your own backyard. Number 17. Giant skeletons of Ecuador. Imagine discovering not one but several human skeletons over 213 centimeters tall. That's the astounding find a team of archaeologists made in Ecuador in 2013. While excavating a site, they unearthed the remains of a female with a rib cage and skull, indicating a height of 229 centimeters in life. And that wasn't the only jumbo-sized skeleton. The team found multiple other giants as they continued digging. These towering ancients lived between 1400 and 1500 AD. Now you might be wondering, could these giants have just had gigantism or some other condition? Well, here's the wild part. The archaeologists think they were normal. One giant skeleton was estimated to be about 60 years old at death. That's well beyond the typical lifespan for someone with untreated gigantism. Plus, the bone proportions were symmetrical, not distorted as is often the case for people with growth disorders. So who were these Ecuadorian behemoths? According to local legends, some belonged to the Manta people, an extraordinarily tall tribe that dominated the region centuries ago. Folklore described them as white-skinned warriors called the Huancabambas after the valley where they lived. Imagine how awe-inspiring it would be to cross paths with one of the Huancabambas back in the 1500s. You'd have to crane your neck just to make eye contact with these mythical giants. Number 16. San Diego Mummy. Imagine a mummy so massive it stands over 243 centimeters tall. In 1939, that very discovery was made by stunned prospectors in a San Diego area cave. This colossal mummy was found sitting upright, legs crossed, and arms resting peacefully on its knees. Even while seated, it towered at an astounding height of 243 centimeters and 84 millimeters. Adding to the amazement, the giant figure was adorned in a thick layer of odd white powder, believed to be ancient embalming fluid. This suggests a deliberate mummification by its creators rather than natural processes. At an estimated 2,000 years old, this behemoth far exceeds the height of the average ancient human. So where could this Brobdingnagian body have originated? Some speculate the San Diego giant belonged to a vanished race of enormously tall humans that inhabited the land millennia ago. Legends speak of such towering peoples across ancient cultures from around the world. Number 15. Giants found at Santa Monica Beach. Buried skeletons of humans are not what you expect to find on a leisurely stroll along the beach, and skeletons of gigantic humans are definitely what you never expect. Yet in July 1908, an astonishing article reported just such a discovery by 2 men at California's Santa Monica Beach. While digging in the area, William Derbyshire and Jake Stoneberger allegedly unearthed over a dozen skeletons, measuring up to 274 centimeters tall. Beyond the astounding height, the most intriguing part was that no local giant tribe was known to have existed. This archaeological bombshell could shake up accepted history if proven true. But where did the skeletons come from if not from a known giant population in the region? Some speculate they washed ashore from an undiscovered island civilization of tremendous titans off the coast. Number 14. Guanajuato Giant. Miners were working in the mine to mine minerals, but they accidentally mined the skeleton of a giant. This isn't fantasy. In 1908, Mexican miners near Guanajuato made the discovery of a literal lifetime. The skeletal remains were measured to be around 272 centimeters tall, a titanic figure by any era's standards. But here's the wildest part. The bones were proportionally massive too. One femur thigh bone reportedly equaled the height of an average miner. Rib bones were described as large as a horse's, and molars cracked coconut shells like peanut shells. This was no ordinary ancient burial. Of course, isolated bones can be mismeasured, leading to exaggeration. But what if the skeleton was a relic of an actual race of Mexican giants in centuries past? Legends speak of such colossal beings inhabiting the lands. Number 13. Kandahar Giant. Stories of gigantic humans have echoed across cultures worldwide. But reports of towering figures with flaming red hair especially capture the imagination. In 2002, an elite American military unit on a mission in Afghanistan had a deadly encounter with just such a creature, according to some accounts. Known as the Kandahar Giant, it reportedly stood over 396 centimeters tall, with flowing crimson locks. The soldiers were on patrol in the mountains of Kandahar when they came across the giant. The giant was armed with a massive spear and was immediately hostile. It charged at the soldiers, killing one with a single blow. The other soldiers opened fire, but the giant was unfazed by the bullets. It took 30 seconds of sustained gunfire to bring the giant down. The soldiers were shocked by the size and strength of the giant. They had never seen anything like it before. They also noticed that the giant had 6 fingers on each hand and 2 rows of teeth. After the battle, the soldiers loaded the giant's body onto a helicopter and took it back to base. The body was then whisked away quickly, hidden from the public. The story of the Kandahar Giant has been met with skepticism by some, but others believe that it is true. There are a number of eyewitness accounts of the encounter, and some soldiers have even come forward to say that they saw the giant's body. Whether or not the Kandahar Giant is real, the story continues to capture the imagination of people around the world. Accounts of red-haired giants appear in various cultures from the Middle East to America. The giants in question likely reached 2 meters tall, incredibly towering over common folk of the time. Number 12. Footprint of God. Imagine stumbling upon footprints measuring over 21 centimeters long imprinted into ancient stone. That's just what was discovered in South Africa, sparking legends of the footprint of God. These colossal impressions near the town of Umpaluzi instantly invite questions. What being could have left tracks so monumentally massive in eras past? Some point to the footprints' reported 200 to 300 million year age as evidence that no humans made them. Skeptical scientists suggest natural erosion and other geological processes could have created such formations coincidentally resembling feet, but it's compelling to think quasi-mythical giants may have imprinted the stone. Perhaps a towering primordial people, an ancient race of titans, or even deity-like figures strode through the region influencing its origins. Envisioning the scene invites speculation. Just picture gigantic beings measuring 8 or 9 feet tall thundering their way across the land, leaving gravity-defying impressions. Extraordinary origins worthy of legend. Of course, without proof, we cannot leap to conclusions, but discoveries like these enormous footprints invite open-minded conjecture about chapters of the human story remaining undiscovered. Our knowledge of antiquity expands continuously as more artifacts surface. Footprints and other fragments speak to bygone ages, and people we are only beginning to glimpse through the fog of lost memory. Number 11. Giant Tooth. A giant the size of King Kong actually existed on our planet long ago. This may be a King Kong ape itself. As astonishing as it sounds, the discovery of a single gigantic tooth suggests such colossal creatures did once walk the earth. In the 1930s, an extraordinary molar was found in a Chinese apothecary shop by anthropologists. At multiple times the size of a normal ape's tooth, it pointed to an ancient Chinese megafauna species reaching towering heights. Based on the fossilized tooth, scientists have estimated this massive primate stood over 300 centimeters tall and weighed around 500 kilograms. For reference, the largest modern gorillas only reach about 180 centimeters upright and 180 kilograms on average. This long extinct giant, dubbed Gigantopithecus, would have matched King Kong in intimidating immensity. Envision a fur-covered behemoth thundering through Asian jungles and forests. Its epic proportions would have granted dominance over all other fauna. Examining the animal's diet through dental evidence and biomechanics suggests it subsisted mainly on tough, fibrous vegetation. But we can also imagine it incorporating some opportunistic meat consumption as modern primates do on occasion. Number 10. Giants of West Virginia. Throughout West Virginia, ancient burial mounds dot the wooded hills. But they may contain more than archaeology buffs bargained for. Some believe they harbor the remains of giants. These large mounds reach up to 6 meters wide and 18,002 meters high. Conventional wisdom says ancient Native American cultures like the Adena built these elaborate spiritual burial sites. But legends and contested accounts suggest another possibility. What if ancient giants were interred within? In 1907, the New York Times reported excavators uncovered a 2.5-meter tall skeleton in a West Virginia mound. Other accounts throughout history describe outsized bones, indicating people 2 to 3 meters tall. Could there be truth to these claims of gigantic remains behind the mound's earthen walls? We must take them with a grain of salt, as evidence is lacking. But it's exciting to imagine an alternative explanation. Number 9. Ancients' Skull of Peru. High in the Andes, an intriguing discovery once sparked theories of giants in ancient Peru. Unearthed human skulls with distinctively elongated shapes led to sensational speculation. These bizarrely distorted skulls came to light in the 1920s through the work of Peruvian archaeologist Julio Tello. He unearthed dozens of skeletons bearing skulls stretched into tall, narrow domes, unlike any known ethnicity. Other researchers soon uncovered similarly shaped skulls across Peru, numbering in the hundreds. Some theorized these were alien-human hybrids with advanced intelligence, and some believed these were the skulls of ancient giants of Peru, while skeptics countered that the skulls reflected an ancient practice of intentional cranial shaping. It's fascinating to picture gigantic species inhabiting ancient Andean bodies, but the artificial cranial deformation theory makes more sense under scrutiny. Many ancient cultures from Africa to Central America molded infant heads into elongated shapes. For example, the Mangbetu people of Congo compressed babies' skulls as a marker of beauty and status. This cultural practice explains Peru's peculiar skulls better than giants. Number 8. Giant in Saudi Arabia. Imagine excavators uncovering a fossilized giant skeleton in the Saudi Arabian desert. This very discovery has ignited speculation about ancient peoples of mythic proportions. Photos leaked in the early 2000s show a skeleton of staggering scale next to 2 men. If genuine, it would have stood around 6 feet tall in life. According to local legends, such gigantic beings did once stride the sands. Tales describe the creatures of immense height and strength created by divine forces. It's said they could demolish mountains and wield massive weapons with ease. Envision these titanic figures lumbering across Arabian dunes, their footfalls booming in the wind-swept desolation. What must they have seemed to civilizations of the era? Their awesome stature must have conferred supreme status. Number 7. Chinese giants. In ancient China, archaeologists made a discovery set to rewrite history. Skeletons suggesting giant humans once walked the land. In 2017, excavations in Shandong province revealed bones of unusual scale. Individuals estimated around 1.9 meters were discovered. That would stand out in any era. But what makes this significant is the context. These remains hail from 5,000 years ago in China's Neolithic period. The average height for the time was around 1.58 meters for men, so these towering specimens were literal giants of their day. Comparatively massive bones were found in 205 graves at the site. Alongside were artifacts like jade items and pottery, indicating high social status. It's irresistible to envision a time when individuals over 6 feet were a rare sight, gazing down on generations of peasants and laborers. Perhaps they were revered as demigods or feared as tyrants. Their privilege and power could have stemmed from physical supremacy alone. Giants often appear in ancient myths worldwide. Maybe these discoveries prove they were rooted in fact, not fantasy. Some type of quirk in biology or the environment caused outliers to grow impossibly large compared to average compatriots. Number 6. BHIMA'S stove. Scattered across India stand structures of incredible scale whose origins stir debate. Known as BHIMA'S stove, these stone formations feature enormous rocks weighing over a ton each. How did such massive artifacts come to be? According to lore, they were created in a bygone era by towering figures called giants or danavas. Supposedly standing 4.5 meters tall, these mythical beings had the strength to maneuver megaliths with ease. The ancient text Mahabharata describes the giant Bhima heroically cooking a gargantuan meal on a supersized stove. Local legends connect these stone structures to such fanciful accounts, while mainstream archaeology favors more mundane theories. Imagining a race of mammoth builders inspires the imagination. Picture a towering tribe hoisting giant slabs overhead with effortless might. Their scale would have granted them status as demigods in ancient times. Of course, extraordinary claims require extraordinary evidence, but relics like BHIMA'S stove urge us to expand notions of what was possible for ancient peoples to achieve. Rather than dismissal, we can allow open-minded conjecture about radically advanced lost civilizations. Though direct proof is lacking, ancient megalithic monuments worldwide suggest hidden histories still shrouded in mystery. Each discovery potentially reveals a missing chapter in humanity's epic. All possibilities wait patiently beneath the dirt for eyes eager to rediscover their grandeur. Now it's time for today's subscriber pick. This image shows two archaeologists uncovering an intact giant human skeleton. However, without any additional information about the site, can we believe it? It's a very remarkable image, but extraordinary claims require extraordinary evidence. Researchers need to thoroughly analyze the find site, dating and DNA to check authenticity. While legends of giants exist across cultures, verified physical evidence has been scarce. Is this the real deal? Let us know of your thoughts in the comments. Number 5. Horned Giants of Pennsylvania. Imagine amateur archaeologists uncovering skeletons of 7-foot-tall horned giants. As implausible as it sounds, just such a discovery was allegedly made in the 1880s on a burial mound excavation in Sayre, Pennsylvania. According to the account, researchers came upon bones of enormous scale, each bearing unique horn-like protrusions from the frontal bone. Naturally, the find invited sensation and speculation. Some declared the skeletons proof of the biblical Nephilim, a race of giants referenced symbolically across ancient texts. Others proposed they were normal humans afflicted by physical anomalies. Skeptics dismissed the discovery entirely as a hoax. The dramatic notion of ancient horned creatures dwelling in the mountains of Pennsylvania fires up the imagination. Envision a tribe of mammoth humanoids stalking misty hills, adorned with sweeping antlers. Their imposing forms would inspire folkloric awe. Perhaps they were indigenous demigods, revered and feared by local populations. Tribal rituals may have embellished their anatomy with horned embellishments, adding to their mystique. Or they simply evolved unique features naturally over eras in isolation. Number 4. Giant skeletons discovered in the 19th century. Back in the 1800s, reports surfaced of giant skeletons being dug up, captivating the press. While largely unverified today, these claims invite imaginative speculation about eras when titans walked the land. In just one tantalizing account, a Wisconsin farmer claimed to unearth a 2.28-meter skeleton in 1883. Later, few more cases of massive skeletons emerged in the area, and Wisconsin was labeled as the land of the giants. Though evidence was scant or missing, the idea of ancient American giants grips the imagination. Envision tribes of 2 to 3 meters tall natives dominating the wild new continent countless millennia before settlers arrived. Perhaps they were the architects behind mysterious earthworks like the Serpent Mound, or curious effigies scattered across the Midwest. Or maybe giantism was simply a genetic quirk producing sporadic anomalies over generations of early inhabitants. Number 3. Giant footprints in the Australia desert. Imagine gigantic footprints imprinted in Australia's remote outback sands. A discovery just like this has ignited speculation about the steps of gigantic beings in eras past. While guiding tourists in the desert, a tracker noticed massive depressions measuring almost half a meter long. Their humanoid shape instantly raised questions. What colossal creature left its mark eons ago? Mainstream science offers prosaic theories of erosion, drained lakes, and even misidentified elephant tracks. But imaginative minds conjure more radical possibilities, visions of thunderous titan footsteps in a primordial world. Picture a lost age when megafauna like giant kangaroos and demon ducks roamed the wild continent. Perhaps some long-extinct hominid species towered 9 to 10 meters tall, leaving sunken footprints still visible. Or maybe a mystical race described in Aboriginal folklore, the Quinkans, perpetuated their legacy by walking the land in ages past. Their giant stride ensures remembrance even long after their disappearance. Of course, without tangible artifacts, we can only speculate. But that is the beauty of mysteries like the footprints. They ignite dreams of times when legends walked the earth in material form. Number 2. Patagonian giants. In 1520, Ferdinand Magellan's crew made an astonishing discovery while exploring Patagonia's southern shores, a towering tribe of giants. Magellan, a Portuguese explorer who had set out to find a western sea route to the Spice Islands, was well aware of the legends of Patagonian giants. But even he was unprepared for the sight of the men he encountered, who stood over 2 meters tall. The giants were friendly and welcoming, and Magellan and his crew spent several days trading with them. The explorers learned that the giants were called Tehuelche, and that they were a nomadic people who lived off the land. They were also skilled hunters and warriors. These locals were of such lofty stature that Magellan dubbed them Patagons, inspiring legends of the Patagonian giants. The name Patagones comes from the Spanish word pata, which means foot. The Tehuelche people were known for their large feet, which were often oversized. Magellan and his crew were so impressed by the size of the Tehuelche people that they believed they were giants. Accounts of meetings with the tribal titans continued through subsequent centuries as outsiders penetrated Patagonia's wilds. Their colossal scale is attributed to the region's isolation and climate-spurring evolutionary anomalies. Imagine witnessing one of these towering beings firsthand centuries ago. Looking upward at a 2-meter-tall Goliath, one would instantly assume mystical qualities. Their imposing height conveys supreme status, dominion, and privilege. Perhaps they were the last vestiges of an age when titans walked the earth openly before diminishing over the eras. As civilizations advanced, the giants gradually faded into seclusion in the world's few remaining wildernesses. Number 1. Cannibal giants. Something primal in us is unsettled by tales of gigantic cannibals towering over normal folk. Legends worldwide describe such imposing carnivores, including North America's infamous red-haired giants of Lovelock Cave, known as the Sitaka or Seduka, which literally translates as Thule eaters in the northern Paiute language. The Thule is a fibrous water plant, which according to legend, was woven by giants into rafts in order to escape attacks by the Paiute. They used the rafts to navigate across what remained then of Lake La Hontan, an ancient lake that once covered most of northern Nevada during the last ice age. Over 2 meter tall and brutal in strength, they dominated the land through ruthless conquest. Even wielding fire-hardened spears proved inadequate against their might, and were described as being vicious, unfriendly, and cannibalistic. Envision these towering titans with flaming red locks and pale skin, stalking the valleys of ancient Nevada. Their menacing forms would seem supernatural to primitive tribes witnessing their first light skins. Perhaps the giants descended from some unknown early European population, their unique genetics gifting them titanic stature. Generations isolated in the wilderness could have spawned bands of marauding mountain ogres. Or they might have been ordinary Native Americans with genetic anomalies causing pronounced growth. Exaggerated myths spring up around rare giants sighted among normal tribes. While the outsized cannibals are likely more legend than fact, picturing them ignites the imagination. They resemble figures from dark fairy tales come alive, the dreaded mythical made flesh and blood. So tread carefully in forgotten realms and leave buried pasts undisturbed. Monsters do not need to walk again to teach enduring morals about might and right. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.